My name is Gabrielle Monroe, and I'm 38 years old. The day my husband called me a failure in front of his entire family at Thanksgiving dinner, I knew my marriage was already dead. I just hadn't signed the death certificate yet. Gabrielle makes what? $30,000 a year as a social worker. Andrew sneered, swirling his bourbon while his mother laughed. Meanwhile, I'm pulling 6 figures. Sometimes I wonder why I even married down. The words hung in the air like smoke from a gun just fired. 23 people, his parents, siblings, cousins, even our neighbors, sat frozen around that mahogany table. I felt my cheeks burn, not from shame, but from the rage I'd been swallowing for 7 years. My fork clattered against the fine china his mother insisted we use. Nobody defended me. Not one person. She's always been the charity case, his sister Vanessa added, examining her French manicure. Remember when she couldn't even afford a decent wedding dress? I remember that dress. Bought it at a consignment shop for $200 because Andrew had gambling debts he'd hidden from me. Debts I'd discovered 2 weeks before our wedding. Debts I'd helped him pay off with money I'd saved since I was 16, working double shifts at a diner while studying for my undergraduate degree. But nobody knew that story. They only saw what Andrew wanted them to see, a successful financial analyst married to a woman who couldn't even finish law school. I stood up slowly, my napkin falling to the floor like a white flag I refused to wave. 7 years earlier, I was different. Hopeful. Naive. I'd just been accepted to Harvard Law School, full scholarship, top 5% of applicants. The acceptance letter was still in my purse the night I met Andrew at a colleague's engagement party. He was charming, tall, with a smile that made promises his character couldn't keep. Harvard Law, he'd said, impressed, his hand lingering on my lower back. That's incredible. You must be brilliant. I was brilliant. I'd graduated summa cum laude from my undergraduate program while working 3 jobs. My mother had died when I was 15, leaving me with a younger brother, Tyler, who was 12 at the time. My father had disappeared years before that. I became Tyler's guardian, his parent, his everything. I'm going to be a corporate attorney, I told Andrew that night, my eyes bright with dreams. I'm going to make enough money so Tyler never has to struggle like we did. Andrew kissed me under the stars that night. I'll support you every step of the way, he whispered. We'll build an empire together. 3 months into Harvard, I got pregnant. Andrew was ecstatic. His family threw parties. But I was terrified. We can make this work, he insisted. You'll just take a semester off, have the baby, then go back. 1 semester became 2. 2 became 4. Every time I tried to return, something happened. Andrew's job relocated us. His mother got sick and needed help. The baby, our daughter Maya, had colic and he couldn't handle night shifts alone. By my 3rd year away from Harvard, I'd lost my scholarship. It's temporary, I kept telling myself, rocking Maya at 3 a.m. while Andrew snored in our bedroom. I'll reapply. I'll finish. But law school seats don't wait. Scholarships don't pause. Dreams don't hibernate, they suffocate slowly, gasping for air you can't give them. I took the social worker position to keep us afloat when Andrew got fired for the first time. He'd been caught falsifying expense reports, though his family never knew that detail. To them, he was between opportunities. I became the breadwinner with my pathetic $30,000 salary, paying our rent, buying groceries, keeping the lights on while he networked at expensive bars. You're holding me back, he said one night, 6 years into our marriage. Maya was asleep. The apartment was silent except for the hum of our dying refrigerator. If you'd just been more supportive of my career instead of always nagging about money. I'd asked him why he spent $800 at a steakhouse when we were 3 months behind on utilities. That was nagging to him. Supporting meant silence. It meant accepting. It meant disappearing. But I didn't disappear entirely. At night, after my shifts, after putting Maya to bed, after ensuring Andrew had everything he needed, I studied. I took online courses. I read legal journals. I kept a notebook filled with business ideas, strategies, dreams written in margins like prayers to a God I wasn't sure was listening. What are you always writing? Andrew asked once, drunk, suspicious. Nothing, I lied, closing the notebook. Just work stuff. What I was writing was a blueprint. For 3 years, working with a colleague from my social work office, I'd been developing an app, a platform connecting underprivileged families with legal resources, mental health services, and educational opportunities. My colleague, Jennifer Chen, was a programmer who'd escaped an abusive marriage. We met at a women's shelter where I volunteered on weekends. This could change everything, Jennifer said during our late-night coding sessions in the public library. Gabrielle, this could help millions. We called it Bridge Home. We launched it quietly, bootstrapped, using the tiny inheritance my mother had left me. $5,000 I'd hidden in an account Andrew didn't know existed. For 2 years, it grew slowly. Small grants. A few thousand users. Nothing spectacular. Then a major foundation noticed. They offered us funding. Serious funding. $2 million to scale nationally. The catch? They wanted to meet the founders, vet us thoroughly, ensure we could handle growth. The meeting was scheduled for December 15th. 3 weeks after that nightmare Thanksgiving. I hadn't told Andrew about Bridge Home. Not when we launched. Not when we got our first users. Not when we landed the grant meeting. Because I knew, I'd always known, that he'd find a way to make it about him. To take credit. To poison something pure. You're late again, he said the night before the foundation meeting. I'd been at Jennifer's apartment, rehearsing our pitch until midnight. Where the hell were you? Working, I said simply. Working. He laughed bitterly. On what? Saving the world $30,000 at a time. I didn't answer. I went to our bedroom, closed the door, and laid out the outfit I'd wear tomorrow, a power suit I'd bought secretly, with Bridge Home money. The foundation's headquarters occupied 3 floors of a building overlooking the city. Glass walls. Marble floors. The kind of success Andrew always fantasized about but never earned. Jennifer and I sat across from 5 board members, our presentation loaded, our hearts pounding like war drums. Talk to us about scale, said Margaret Whitmore, the foundation's director. She was 60, sharp-eyed, with grey hair cut in a severe bob. You currently serve 50,000 families across 3 states. Our funding would take you national, potentially 5 million families in year 1. Can you handle that? I'd been handling impossible situations since I was 15. Yes, I said, my voice steady. We've built the infrastructure. We have partnerships with law schools, therapy networks, and educational platforms in 42 states. We're ready. For 90 minutes, we presented statistics, testimonials, financial projections. Our technology was sound. Our mission was clear. When we finished, the room was silent. Margaret's expression was unreadable. I've reviewed over 300 grant applications this year, she finally said. This is the first time I've wanted to write the check before the meeting even ended. Congratulations. The $2 million is yours. Jennifer grabbed my hand under the table. We'd done it. We'd actually done it. As we walked out, Margaret called after me. Ms. Monroe. One more thing. We have venture capital contacts interested in platforms like yours. Would you be open to a Series A conversation? Series A meant serious money. Growth capital. The kind that turns a good idea into an empire. Absolutely, I said, trying to keep my voice professional when I wanted to scream with joy. That night, I came home to Andrew passed out drunk on the couch. The venture capital firm moved fast. Within 3 weeks, we had term sheets. Multiple offers. But one stood out, a firm specializing in social impact startups, offering $12 million for 20% equity. The valuation put Bridge Home at $60 million. My majority stake made me worth over $40 million on paper. You need to tell him, Jennifer said as we celebrated with cheap wine in my car, parked outside my apartment building. Gabrielle, this is real now. He's going to find out. I know, I whispered, staring at the lit window where I knew Andrew was probably watching sports, drinking beer, completely oblivious to the fact that his failure wife had just become wealthier than he'd ever be. I told him that Saturday morning. Maya was at his mother's house for the weekend. The apartment was quiet. I'd rehearsed this conversation 100 times, but the words still felt foreign on my tongue. Andrew, I need to talk to you about something. He didn't look up from his phone. If it's about money again. I built a company, I interrupted. Over the past 3 years. It's called Bridge Home. We just closed a venture capital round. The company is valued at $60 million. The silence that followed was profound. Slowly, he lowered his phone. His face cycled through confusion, disbelief, then something darker. You what? I'm worth about $42 million, I continued, my voice steady. The deal closes next month. I wanted you to hear it from me. His laugh started small, then grew hysterical. This is a joke. You're telling me you, who can barely hold down a social worker job, you built a $60 million company. Yes. And you didn't tell me. Your husband. There it was. Not pride. Not congratulations. Just outrage that I'd done something without his permission. What followed was weeks of psychological warfare. Andrew didn't congratulate me. He didn't apologize for years of belittlement. Instead, he became obsessed. I supported you through everything, he said repeatedly, rewriting history in real time. This company wouldn't exist without me. Without the stability I provided. I deserve at least half. His lawyer contacted me within days. The divorce papers I'd secretly filed 2 weeks earlier, the ones he didn't know about yet, suddenly had competition. He was claiming spousal support, half of Bridge Home's value, full custody of Maya. You're an unfit mother, his filing claimed. You prioritized business over your child. You hid assets. You're psychologically unstable. I sat in my lawyer's office, a Harvard classmate who'd stayed in touch, reading the accusations. My hands didn't shake. I'd been preparing for this since the day I started building Bridge Home. He has no case, my lawyer, Patricia, said firmly. You built this before and during the marriage with your own inheritance money. He contributed nothing. And the parenting claims. We'll bury him with evidence. But Andrew wasn't fighting fair. He leaked the story to a gossip blog. Local man's wife hides millions in secret business, painting himself as the victim of a scheming woman. His family rallied around him. Vanessa started a social media campaign about financial infidelity. His mother called me, screaming about how I'd destroyed her son. Only one person from his family reached out with kindness, his youngest brother, David, who texted, I always knew you were special. I'm sorry for how we treated you. That text made me cry harder than all the accusations combined. Patricia's strategy was brilliant and brutal. We don't just win, she said, spreading documents across her conference table. We obliterate his case so thoroughly that he never tries this again. First, we gathered evidence. Bank statements showing Andrew's gambling addiction. Credit card receipts from bars and strip clubs he'd frequented while I worked. Text messages between him and his mistress. Yes, there was a mistress, a woman named Simone he'd been seeing for 2 years. I'd known for months. Had hired a private investigator. Had documentation of everything. Jesus, Patricia whispered, reading through the evidence. Gabrielle, why did you stay? For Maya. And because I was building something that would let me leave on my terms. I looked at her directly. I wasn't going to run. I was going to win. Second, we documented my motherhood. Maya's teachers provided statements. Her pediatric Ian. My neighbors. All testified that I was present, involved, loving, that Andrew often forgot to pick her up from school, missed parent-teacher conferences, chose drinking over parenting. Third, we prepared for the nuclear option. Andrew's claim that he deserved half of Bridge Home required proving he'd contributed to it. But Jennifer and I had been meticulous. Every email, every meeting note, every line of code, every investor conversation. Andrew's name appeared exactly 0 times. He's going to come at you hard in the custody hearing, Patricia warned. Be ready. The hearing was scheduled for February 14th. Valentine's Day. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Judge Andrea Wallace presided, a black woman in her 50s with a reputation for suffering no fools. Andrew's lawyer, a slick man named Richard Chen who charged $500 an hour that Andrew couldn't actually afford, opened with theatrics. Your Honor, Mr. Monroe is a devoted father whose wife systematically hid assets, neglected their child, and pursued selfish ambitions at the expense of family stability. Patricia stood slowly. Your Honor, may I? Judge Wallace nodded. Patricia pulled out a tablet. Mr. Chen painted a picture of devotion. Let's examine the reality. Exhibit A, a timeline of the past 7 years. What followed was devastating. Patricia presented evidence of every time Andrew had failed to show up for Maya. Every parent-teacher conference he missed, 14 out of 16. Every birthday party he was too drunk to attend. Every school play he skipped for basketball games with friends. Then came the financial abuse. Mr. Monroe claims he provided stability. In reality, Ms. Monroe paid 90% of household expenses while Mr. Monroe spent his income on gambling. Exhibit D shows $57,000 in gambling losses over 4 years. Andrew's face went purple. His lawyer scrambled. Objection, Your Honor. This is character assassination. It's evidence, Judge Wallace said coldly. Continue, Ms. Jackson. Patricia didn't just continue. She brought in Maya's teacher, Mrs. Roberts, a gentle woman who'd taught 3rd grade for 20 years. In all my years teaching, I've never seen a more involved mother than Ms. Monroe. She volunteers weekly, helps with homework despite working full-time, and never misses a conference. Mr. Monroe. I've met him twice. Both times, he seemed disinterested. Andrew tried to defend himself on the stand. It was carnage. Mr. Monroe, Patricia began, her voice deceptively gentle. You claim you supported your wife's career. Did you know she'd been accepted to Harvard Law School before you married? Andrew shifted. Yes. And you encouraged her to attend. She got pregnant. It wasn't practical. So you discouraged her from attending Harvard Law. I didn't discourage. I was realistic. Patricia smiled. Realistic. Interesting word. Is it realistic to tell your wife she's a failure? To mock her career publicly? To call her a charity case in front of 23 people at Thanksgiving dinner? The courtroom went silent. Andrew's lawyer stood. Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative. I'll allow it, Judge Wallace said, leaning forward. Mr. Monroe, answer the question. I was frustrated. She was always working late, neglecting. Patricia's voice sharpened. Working multiple jobs to pay bills you couldn't cover due to gambling addiction is neglecting. I don't have a gambling addiction. Patricia produced bank statements. $57,000, Mr. Monroe. Race tracks. Online betting sites. Casinos. Your Honor, I'd like to enter Exhibits E through M, documentation of Mr. Monroe's gambling, his affair with a woman named Simone Rodriguez, and text messages where he explicitly tells Ms. Rodriguez he's only staying married for the money he thought they'd make together. Andrew's world collapsed in real time. His mother, sitting in the gallery, gasped audibly. Vanessa's face went white. The text messages were damning, conversations where Andrew mocked me, detailed his plans to leverage my eventual success, even joked about how stupid I was for not realizing he was cheating. Judge Wallace removed her glasses. Mr. Monroe, I've presided over family court for 18 years. This is among the most egregious displays of marital manipulation I've witnessed. Andrew tried to speak. No words came. Judge Wallace didn't deliberate long. In the matter of custody, I award primary physical custody to Ms. Monroe. Mr. Monroe will have supervised visitation every other weekend until he completes a substance abuse evaluation and gambling addiction counseling. Regarding asset division, Mr. Monroe has established no credible claim to Bridge Home or its valuation. The company was built with Ms. Monroe's inheritance during hours when Mr. Monroe was either working, socializing, or engaged in extramarital affairs. His contribution was zero. Therefore, he is entitled to zero. Andrew stood violently. "This is bullshit." She hid. "Mr. Monroe." Judge Wallace's voice cracked like thunder. "Sit down or I'll hold you in contempt." Ms. Monroe had every legal right to invest her inheritance as she saw fit. She was not obligated to disclose business ventures, particularly when you were actively engaged in financial misconduct. The judge continued. "Furthermore, Mr. Monroe, you will pay Ms. Monroe $7,500 monthly in child support. You will also reimburse her for 50% of the marital debts she covered, totaling approximately $38,000. Do you understand?" Andrew's face was ashen. "I can't afford." "You should have considered affordability before filing frivolous claims." Judge Wallace signed the order. "This court is adjourned." As we left the courtroom, Andrew grabbed my arm in the hallway. "You've destroyed me," he hissed. "You've turned everyone against me. You're a vindictive." "Let go of her." Patricia stepped between us. "Now, or I'll have you arrested." He released me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before: fear. Real, genuine fear. Because for the first time in 7 years, he wasn't in control. Outside, Jennifer was waiting with champagne in her car. "How'd it go?" I smiled, tasting freedom. "We won. Everything." 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Bridge Home exploded. We'd expanded to all 50 states. Our user base hit 3 million families. Major corporations began partnering with us for corporate social responsibility initiatives. Forbes called me one of 30 under 40 social entrepreneurs changing America. I bought a brownstone in Brooklyn. 3 stories, original hardwood, a garden where Maya could play. Not a mansion, but ours. Truly, fully ours. The Mercedes came next, a silver S-Class I'd dreamed about since college. Not because I needed to flex, but because I'd earned it. Harvard Law reached out personally. "We'd love to have you back to complete your degree," Dean Morrison wrote. "With your real-world experience, you'd be an invaluable addition to our program." I enrolled part-time. At 38, I was going to finish what I'd started. Maya thrived. Away from Andrew's chaos, she bloomed. Her grades improved, her anxiety disappeared, her laughter filled our home like sunlight. She'd ask sometimes, "Is Daddy okay?" And I'd answer honestly, "Daddy is learning to be better." And that's all we can hope for. Andrew, meanwhile, had moved back in with his mother. The gambling continued. Simone left him after his money dried up. His family, who'd worshipped him, now saw him clearly. Vanessa actually apologized to me at a coffee shop one random Tuesday. "I was wrong about you," she said, tears in her eyes. "We all were. He made us see what he wanted us to see." I didn't forgive her. Not yet. But I nodded. People believe what's easiest to believe. The success brought unexpected challenges. Old friends emerged, suddenly interested in my life. Andrew's relatives sent Facebook friend requests. Tyler, my brother, cried when I paid off his student loans and bought him a car. 1 year after the divorce, I gave a TEDx talk titled "Building While Breaking." I spoke about creating Bridge Home during the worst period of my life. About studying law at midnight after being called a failure at dinner. About the quiet revolution of refusing to accept someone else's narrative about your worth. The talk went viral. 12 million views in 3 weeks. Media requests flooded in. And then, inevitably, Andrew reached out. A text message to my new number he'd somehow obtained: "I watched your TED Talk. Can we meet? I need to apologize properly." I stared at that message for 3 days. Jennifer said, "Don't do it. He doesn't deserve your time." Patricia said, "It's your choice, but remember, he hasn't changed, he's just desperate." I met him at a coffee shop. Neutral territory. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. The arrogance had been replaced with something hollow. "Thank you for seeing me," he said quietly. "I'm not here for reconciliation, Andrew. I'm here because I want closure." He nodded. "I know. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. For how I treated you. For what I said. For, His voice broke. For not seeing how incredible you were. I sipped my coffee. You saw. You just didn't care. Because my success threatened you. My dreams were competition. I was raised to believe a man should be the provider, That's not an excuse. That's ego. And ego made you cruel. Silence stretched between us. Finally, he asked, "Do you hate me?" "No," I said honestly. "I don't hate you, Andrew. I pity you. Because you had a brilliant, loyal, loving partner, and you destroyed it because you couldn't stand not being the center of attention. That's tragic." He left crying. I left empowered. 3 years post-divorce, Bridge Home is valued at $57 million. We've helped 7 million families access resources they desperately needed. I completed my Harvard Law degree, graduated top of my class. The brownstone in Brooklyn has become our sanctuary. Maya, now 12, talks about becoming a social entrepreneur like her mom. Andrew has supervised visitation still. He's in therapy, attending Gamblers Anonymous, trying to rebuild. I don't celebrate his struggles, but I don't mourn them either. His journey is his own. Recently, Maya asked me, "Mom, why did you stay so long with Daddy if he was mean?" I thought carefully before answering. Because I was building strength. Sometimes we can't leave situations immediately. Sometimes we have to prepare, to plan, to become strong enough to walk away with our heads high. I wasn't running from your father, I was running toward our future. She hugged me. "You're my hero." That's legacy. Not the money. Not the company. Not even the degree. Legacy is teaching your daughter that silence doesn't mean weakness. That being underestimated is sometimes an advantage. That the people who mock your journey often can't comprehend your destination. I still keep that notebook, the one where I wrote my dreams in margins. Now it sits on my desk, a reminder that the woman who wrote those dreams in secret is the same woman living them openly. Last week, Andrew's mother called. "I owe you an apology," she said. "For Thanksgiving. For believing him over you. For every laugh at your expense." "Thank you," I said simply. Because forgiveness isn't about them. It's about me refusing to carry their weight. This home was built on sacrifice, not lies. This success was earned in midnight hours, not handed down. And this life, this beautiful, hard-won life, is mine. Fully, completely, unapologetically mine. If you're living in someone's shadow, building in secret, surviving until you can thrive, your time is coming. Keep building. Keep believing. And when they finally see what you've become, stand tall. Not because you need their validation, but because you've already validated yourself. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated, hit subscribe and share your own triumph story in the comments below.